and things. They're having to juggle versus virtual versus how many they're going to have in real school, and they're trying to get all that accomplished, plus bringing everything back online. So it's a turmoil year, but she should be coming back with an answer for flags soon. That's all I have for it right now on the flags that I know about. Does anybody else have anything on the flags?
Yeah, Walt, this is Mark. My system froze for a moment. I don't know if you mentioned Dixon, Tennessee. Did you mention them first?
No, sir, I did not.
I had, and I'm looking back for my email. I had it up here before. Y'all help me out. The president of the chapter there, was it Robert Thomas, who passed away? He and I were lined up to present, I think, 30 flags for 6 schools there. And we're going to do it right after the beginning of the new year. And doggone if he didn't pass away from the virus right at the end of December. Right. I didn't know, but I'll find it here momentarily. Whoever has picked up the cause since then.
I think I put it in the minutes of our last report.
Yeah. So, so we have requests probably for, let's say 200 flags at this point. Okay. And I left the information at my office today, unfortunately, but the company I have used in the past, and I've shown you all the flags, and they come with a bracket, like an aluminum wall mounting bracket. And I've had the cost information before, which I don't have readily available here today, but it's $3 and some cents per unit. Maybe it's $3.50 per flag and bracket. Are the best I've found. David Egan has suggested a different supplier. I think Fred Underdown has talked about working with the Woodmen of America. I'm a little reluctant to start partnering with somebody else on this. It's hard enough to manage ourselves, but it's not going to be difficult to get the flags once we get the count of what people need, rather than ordering them piecemeal. Right. I think our first order of business needs to go back and remind each chapter about this program and sort of get them enthused where they can buy into it. In meantime, I'm confident that the George Washington Endowment would be very interested in our program, and provided that we put up some money, I think they would match it or some portion of it. I did talk with David Johnston months ago about the idea. We had put in the budget at my request last year and again this year, we have $2,000 on the books for America 250 initiatives. So, I mean, I think we have the money in any event, but I think we've actually budgeted some from which we could draw to get these. The challenge is getting the chapters informed and excited about it, and then timing the presentation of the flags with, I'll say the reopening of schools. So you're not behind the curve on this, because most schools have been meeting virtually anyway. Some now are reopening, and it may be that we plan for the reopening of schools in August, for example, and work backwards from August till now to redouble our efforts to go to the chapters and say, look, here's the program, here's what it's about. And would you be interested? Would you contact your schools? Tell us what kind of a response you get, how many flags you need. We'd have time to order and also get the George Washington down. That's just my thinking on it.
I think you got a good point there, Mark. Like you said, we're not behind the curve. We're actually catching up, and a good presentation at the start of a school year might be a good point. Yeah. Now, one thing I run across was Dr. Ryan
Bartz, yes.
He's running across some issues down in the counties around where he's at. The schools do not give the same classroom back to the teacher every year. And what it amounts to is they have to clean it, more or less wholesale clean the classroom out at the end of the school year. And then the next year they're assigned another classroom.
Well, I hadn't heard about that, but it seems to me that a flag that's attached to the wall in a classroom belongs, it's like an attachment. It's part of the school, not the teacher's classroom. Yeah, yeah. Now, they may be thinking that what we're talking about is, you know, just a loose flag, a flag on a staff that you've got to put in a flower pot. I've seen some correspondence about that. But these, you know, I don't know about you guys, but when I was in school, there was a bracket on the wall. The flag was up there at the chalkboard, stuck out like that. And
Right.
These flags are 3 feet by 2 feet. And the staff is, oh, I don't know, Walt, I've given you the dimensions before, but the staff is like 4 feet long or something.
Right.
So I should think those would stay in every classroom. They shouldn't be removed. It's the school's obligation to provide them. But, yeah.
But we can revisit that too later. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I'll send a letter out to that so they can, the chapters go approach the local counties and their school systems to see if we can get a response on how many flags they need and try to get it done prior to hopefully July. So that way we can get a count, and that way be able to have them provided, be able to hand them out before the school year starts.
Exactly. And I'll be happy to help you with a letter in terms of reciting the state law that I've shared with you all before about the obligation to, unless there's a religious objection or some other objection, but it's state law that they're to recite the Pledge of Allegiance in school every day where there's a flag present. And we're making flags present. And the very state law I refer to goes on to encourage not-for-profit organizations like ours to donate flags to schools so that the law can be met. It's beautiful because in other words, some principal or superintendent doesn't need to be worried that here comes some group from out of the blue trying to get into their classrooms and be worried about it. This is state law, you know.
Right. I appreciate that, Mark, because I really need help with that.
Sure. I think that's a great idea. Absolutely great, because that gets it beyond the politics in the school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Right now the GW has about $36,000 for distribute this coming year over until next March. So I would suggest that if you want some money, you go ahead and apply for it. Now it'll have to come from the states. It'll have to come from Steve Gaines.
I understand.
I'm sorry he couldn't be on here today, but I'll remind him, whisper in his ear, whatever.
Okay. Well, and that's where we are with the flags program. The tree program is in place. Dr. Ryan Bartz has got the trees down there in his farm being grown, and we just need to go out and do the same thing. Find out if they want to put these trees in a veterans park or whatever they want to do. You know, these liberty trees. So it's just another one of those. That's where we're at with that. Does anybody else have anything to say about the Liberty Tree program?
So
the DAR is already doing a program similar to this.
I understand. They're talking about putting some trees down Natchez Trace, is what I heard.
They were already doing it up here in East Tennessee.
Okay.
So Dave, when they do it, so to speak, I mean, are they already planting them, or are they growing them now to be planted in 2 years or something?
They're already planting. They just planted one here in Kingsport at the Veterans Memorial Park a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
So I guess we could sort of cut to their pattern in terms of the ceremony and all that sort of thing.
Right. The city actually planted the tree. The ladies did not, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I understand. I've reached out to Cecile Wimberly, that's the regent for the state of Tennessee DAR, and I'm asking for who that person is that's leading their challenge, you know, with the 250th anniversary chair for them. So that way we can as soon as I can find out information, we can start working together, supporting each other. I'm hoping to be able to break through that wall and be able to share when they're actually going to have these type of ceremonies. So that way we know when and where they're putting them in place. Anything else? Okay. Cliff, how's the musical competition program concept coming?
I've had a couple conversations with two of my friends who are music directors, and they've given me some advice, initial advice for planning. But the long pole in the tent, of course, is music and the group we're trying to focus on. Their thoughts, generally speaking, were that probably if the music would have to be something that's already developed and out there that you can purchase for a band. And that way middle school or high school bands could use it, and almost all the instruments within the band could participate. So they've given me some ideas of where to look to see if there's anything out there that might meet what we're thinking about maybe doing. But my one friend who's retired and has taught for 30 some years in bands of various sizes, his recommendation was that we find a patriotic program that would that's already produced and that we think would meet our purposes, that a whole band could participate in. And typically, he said what we'd probably have to do is we'd probably have to buy that show or program with all the music and and have the license to that music, and then anybody who wants to participate with us, we would allow them to use it. So I got to do some more research on that and see if there's even anything out there like that that would meet the goal, and then be able to provide an assessment and a realistic cost if there is a cost. And maybe somebody would donate it, hard to say, but that was his recommendation. He said just depends on how big you wanted to go, or what we're trying to do.
One question I got is, are we looking at a high school band? Are we looking at junior high band? Are we looking at an ensemble band or orchestra? Or are we looking at like a college, or all of them?
Well, I think initially the initial concept and initial discussion was middle school, high school oriented. Anybody that could participate with the music that we decide on.
Okay.
So it's kind of more oriented on band than orchestra. So there is that cut, but then the music is the long pole in the tent, because if you just focus on like fife and drum corps music, then that eliminates a whole bunch of people that participate. Whereas if we could find like a old patriotic show that we could get the music rights to, that we would like, then that would be already set up for everybody in the band to participate in for their instrument. And then it'd just be a matter of them demonstrating their proficiency for their instrument on that music. And if we got to that point, then it would be kind of like a system. His recommendation would be kind of like a system for a all county band competition, or a district band competition, where they're really creating a band from a bunch of individuals who are competing on their instrument on that music. And typically there's a panel of 3 to 5 music directors that would adjudicate, who really did it well. in order to be the top musicians. So we wouldn't be looking at like sponsoring a band show contest competition. It would be more of a county and district individual competition on your instrument, on the provided music.
Okay. All right. The only thing I'm thinking about was when I talked to Steve about some of the stuff, like the flags, the trees, the music, and also the Camp Blount and all the other activities that we're considering. We need to get if we're needing funding, which we're okay on the flags, and if we need, or if we got $2,000 allocated. So if we need more than $2,000, we've got to be able to go in front and ask for it prior to this next COMMTG meeting. So we need to get our ducks in a row so we'll be able to ask for that money. Okay.
Well, on the music competition aspect of it, I guess the question would be, are we going to try to, do we want to try to run it through the entire period of the celebrations for the big window of it, or do we want to focus on a main year that is a key interest to Tennessee? I guess that would be another aspect to know.
Right. Well, the crescendo year is supposed to be 226. And then it, it's supposed to rise to 226 and fall to 2033. But that's what they're saying. But I think that what I understand is the crescendo year, they want it to be 2026. Is that correct, Mark?
Yes, sir. I mean, it's going to and at least taper off through 2030, maybe 2033. And also, I'm looking here, Cliff, there's an organization that had me participate in a patriotic music competition. It's called the National Association of Music Education, or Music Educators. And there's a Tennessee chapter of it, the TMEA. I may follow up with you about that, because this might be the kind of thing that they might cooperate with us on for, let's say, a 2026 event where they bring, musicians from a number of high school bands across the state together to produce a patriotic concert. They had me narrate a tribute to Ronald Reagan, and it was attended by thousands of people. I'm somewhere in Nashville, I forget where it was, but I had to rehearse with. They put together a band members. They created an orchestra, and it's, I'm just trying to think of existing structures within which we can work, where somebody else has already figured out a lot of the logistics. That's just an idea, but.
Oh no, that's probably a good one, because you're right. There is a state organization. It's all music educators, and the kids, when we're in a normal school year in band and orchestra, the kids start out at county, then work up the district, and then up to state. And typically there's a I'm not sure if it's a 3-day or maybe at least a 3-day over a weekend in Nashville, where they make basically a state level band. And
that's it. Yeah, that was it. I've still got the CDs from it, but I couldn't believe it. And I mean, it was tremendous, but they've got the structure and everything that maybe we could work at getting them to start considering, an America 250 concert, and make, here we've got a couple of years to work towards that. But anyway, it's another idea.
Right. And that's probably a good partner organization. I know down near us, Lee University has always been knee deep in the district level of events for our kids down here. So,
All right.
satelliting off of the already existing program and organizations, they might be good partners for us. And there again, we could recognize them with the Partner in Patriotism Awards that we have.
Exactly.
Cliff, this is Rob Clifton. Another potential source of finding some of that music might be with BMI or ASCAP in Nashville. while they may or may not, I don't know, have full shows in their catalog, they may be able, as a sponsor, to negate any licensing charges. If we ask them to do that, don't know. And because I would think some of that music is probably so old that copyrights and license may not apply.
Right.
But they would be the ones to be able to tell us that. So,
Right, right. Yeah, and you're probably right on the music end of it. It's just how it's been maybe choreographed into a new show for a band, which would where you get tied up in licensing. Right, understood.
Okay, if you can, I, when you find that, when you're able to pull that all together, Cliff, could you kind of get back with us and let us know? So that way, if we need to go after funding, what kind of funding we need, to do that. If we don't have enough,
Right. Yep. I'll keep you posted.
Okay, I appreciate that. Now, we're making pretty good progress with the Camp Blount situation. They have 2 cabins down there. They have a Pettit cabin, and they also have the Greer cabin down there. They're also going to be putting in some other buildings as well, and also pavilion, what I understand. Dr. Bartz was working with the forestry group, and the forestry group's been talking to the sawmill owners. And the sawmill owners is talking about donating wood, especially like red oak and stuff like that, that will be transported by them straight to Camp Blount, and they'd have to be offloaded. And I talked to Colin Wakefield and the Camp Blount, he talked to Camp Blount Historical Association, and they will be furnishing them letters of appreciation and thanking them for their donation, and also putting a monetary discretion in there of what it's worth, so they can take it as a tax write-off. So that's working out real well. So that's in progress at this point. And Dr. Bartz and I was talking, and it looks like it's going to be towards the end of the year when all this is going to come to be. But you know what I'm saying, with a lot of that wood getting in place and being in place down there. Because right now, sir?
I'm sorry to interject this, but Ron Bartz is having difficulty getting in. Have you got the Zoom contact number that he can get, or you can send back to him?
I got in. I'm just not able to use video. I can.
Okay, he's got the same problem I have. I'm in, but no video.
Well, I have no video, but I have audio, so I can see everyone. I think after the storm, we've lost a lot of power. We had some pretty bad stuff go through here last night, but they are going to try and cut as many larger pieces, oversized, that they can. So if they want to hand hewn it, and when it starts to dry, they can deal with that. But that was a pretty easy idea that was not going to be that difficult. It's just coming up with pieces, because the wood there were whatever was close, and they cut and used. So there is no strict, we only used this wood from that period and that time. They found some that are chestnut, and we don't even have that anymore. So a lot of them had no problem just cutting it a little oversized and letting them, do the final chinking and using the broad axe on it, so it won't be completely cut by machine. But I thought it was a pretty big win that they're willing to help, because that's a lot of money just to have the wood and things there.
Right. And we're thinking about maybe doing a project a year like that. If we can get the wood donated like that down to like Camp Blount. I was talking to Jerry Gillum, and Jerry Gillum, there's a lady that rescued it was a Cherokee cabin, and he's doing some research on that to find out on what side of the war was he on. Was he on the Loyalist side, or was he on our side? And that might be an opportunity, and it's right up in his county. And he's going to talk to the lady and see if maybe they can do something like that there. And I started having a brainstorm. We got like Southwest Point in Kingston, Tennessee. It's an unfinished fort. You know, they always are trying to buy wood and this and that to restore that fort. They got like 2 walls up and a couple of, like 2 or 3 buildings, but they've been struggling to get that going. That might be an opportunity where we can help Southwest Point up there in Kingston. And like Bledsaw Creek up there, that, you know, state of Tennessee. There used to be Bledsaw Fort up there. I don't know, it might be a thought that they might want to put a fort up in there. You know what I'm saying? It might be take it back the way it was and use it as a teaching tool for history, you know, for the kids. It's just an idea. But that's what I was thinking. And there's a lot of places like that well, you give it like Fort Nashboro. Compared to what Fort Nashboro was way back when I was little, it's hardly anything compared to what it is now. Because it was almost the whole riverfront down there when I was down there, when I was little. And that whole area down through there. Now it's just a bunch of telephone poles, you know. It's not much to really see what it was really like. And I know the city's growing and can't do that kind of stuff. But in places where we can, like historic spots or state parks, or we got public land that people are willing to allow kids to be taught, I think it might be a good idea we look at that kind of stuff. But okay, but that's where we're at. Basically, it's around $255,000 worth of timber that's being donated to Camp Blount. So it's quite a bit of timber for them to be able to accomplish their projects. It's going to still take a lot of manpower, a lot of people working on it, but it's a major win for that the whole process and get the program on track. Cliff, if you don't mind, could you talk about the passport system a bit?
Yep, sure. Ready to do that. If Joel's going to I think he might have to reset the slideshow real quick. I asked Joel to join us for the committee meeting, and since he's our grave and markings chairman, and probably needs to be a full-timer on the 250th, but the passport concept, I took the cue from Mark's comments from a couple of our BOG meetings, and looked at the Whiskey Trail passport as well as the National Park passport. But I also tried to come up with a concept that was basically something we could do online without creating a lot of physical documents and incurring a lot of expense. Now, on the other hand, then, you know, if we do it online, we have to have a tool and a vehicle in which to do that. I think we could probably do it by standing up a specific supporting Facebook page for people to interact with. I'm gonna run a test on that just to see if my thought is correct on how we could do that and understand the mechanism of how to and some of the housekeeping if we decide to go that way. If we were to do it on our website, with our current website configuration, we wouldn't be able to do it. We'd have to have the upgraded website in order to have more video and photo and page support. So right now our current website won't support it. But here we go. We'll kind of run through.
Are you seeing it correctly?
Yep.
Okay, good deal.
Thanks, Joel. So right now the initial concept was set up for anybody in Tennessee to interact with us and our brothers in Southern District. Next slide. Go next one, Joel.
It's not moving. Just a second. Sorry.
Nah, that's okay.
There we go.
And what do you get for completing the passport program? There, of course, there's the awards program for the that's already laid out by the SAR at national. So there's certificates, coins, and other medals that you could potentially receive. The question there would be, what do we want to invest in those to make our own awards? So that's kind of an open question. Program period. Actually, this program as a draft started this year, 2021 being 1771 and running to 31 December 2033. Although our brothers at National want to focus on 1776 and 2026, the Southern campaign really was not hot and part of the conflict at that period of time. And, many of us would probably argue that the Southern campaign won the war. And so 30,
Right.
it would be the high point. So understand what National's saying, but I'm not too sure personally that the high point for Tennessee is 1776. Open for discussion there. Next slide. How to earn points. You participate in events and visit historical places throughout the year during the sub period. So go ahead, next one, please. Why? Obviously to celebrate our events, honor our patriots during the 250th anniversaries. And to note, the period from National is 2014 to 2033. It can be any event that we're celebrating in the window. So for us as an example, our big one, since it's on the national calendar annually, is Sycamore Shoals. Any year that we do Sycamore Shoals within the greater window of 250th celebration, so 2014 to 2033, any year within that window of years that we do Sycamore Shoals, that event and ceremony is a 250th celebration. The big thing with any of them that we want to do, whether it's state, district, or chapter event, is making sure it's publicized and identified as a 250th celebration event in order to properly award internally those who participate, or externally our partners in patriotism for the program. The following slides are set up by year, and I just picked 13 as a likely number for state level recognized events for each year. The actual hard copy you've got an email is colored. You're not seeing some of the colorization of the fonts here, but quick orientation to the slide. In the center, you'll find the 13 events to be selected or identified as an actual 250th anniversary celebration event. And then off to the right, I built a little square info box that kind of adds up the points that you can earn as an SAR member or a participant toward the national award program that's laid out there. So just as we walk through, most of the years are similar in nature, and it's kind of set up so that the state society president could designate an event and we get extra points for participating in the state level event, or if we or there's a district or a chapter specific, there's a lot of flexibility built in It would just be a matter of what we want to focus on for our big 13, as it were, for each year. And we can just kind of, if there's not any real questions on the general concept, we can kind of walk through each year real fast. I want to go to the next one there, Joel. This would be 1772, which would be 2022 next year. Very similar in nature.
$17.73.
2023 was 1773. So far, and when we get further along here and we get toward the Southern campaign, the things I put into the proposed program really are more oriented on the Southern campaign and oriented on the likely participation of the Washington District Regiment commanded by John Sevier at one point. So it's a heavy Southern campaign leaning toward this calendar event, but like I said, it's whatever we want. So we can plug in whatever we want to recognize as an event. But you'll see Sycamore Shoals is always on the calendar since it's a national event and it's a state level event. Next one, please. 2014 or 2024, I'm sorry, 1774. Next. When we get to 2025, which is 1775, we actually get into actual 250th major celebration events. And one of the things you'll note, like on number 8 here, Patriots Day celebration honoring 1775 and a senior leader patriot buried in Tennessee. My thought was, as we went through here and found or had established significant events that we might like to focus on, that we also try to allow our compatriots and other members who want to participate with us, linking patriots that are recognized by us and the DAR buried in Tennessee already to an event that they may have likely participated in, or just linking them to an event, and then on that event or during that window, while if you were out on the road visiting somebody or just on a business event or just did it on a weekend, you could go visit that patriot's grave site, take a little selfie of you there with the grave, and that would be your submission into the system, noting that, hey, I went and visited John Sevier on this date for this celebration. One of the other aspects of it allows us to hopefully find some more patriots, but also kind of put a little visitation tab on some of our markers and monuments that are out there and around the state, and almost have an active inventory going as you would. So it potentially can serve a couple purposes for us. Next one. 76, obviously 26, obviously big days. And we have some key ones in the state. I did not realize that if you look at number 11 that I put on here, that over in Cherokee, North Carolina, I did not know there was a museum of the Cherokee over there. I just kind of put that up as an example of maybe a place we could add to our program and maybe seek out partnership with them. As our members could go visit them to get credit for this particular event in our program. Next. And September, October 77 are, you know, the big battles in Saratoga are the bigger ones. Next one. Again, number 11, the Boonesboro siege would potentially be a big event for us. Next. 79, Fort Nashboro established. Kettle Creek's not too far away. I know we've got numerous patriots that have ancestors that have fought at Kettle Creek. And then, of course, we have more action around the Chickamauga towns during that period of time. We have, for instance, one of our patriots we recognized end of 2019 was part of Shelby's campaign, which resulted in the sale of military stuff that they acquired on campaign at Sale Creek, Tennessee, which is a local town near us. But they basically got their town name from that historic sale. So that's something, John Sevier chapter, we're trying to figure out how to you know, strike up something with the small town of Sale Creek, and maybe we incorporate them in some kind of thing that we can do with them. Next. 1780, of course, we're starting to get knee deep into the Southern campaign, major actions, and would be major events for us. Next. 81 is pretty significant in the Southern campaign area, as well as that, you know, we end up with the surrender of Yorktown. So 81 is really a huge year, in my opinion.
Yes, it is.
Next, please. 82, we still have possible events in the South and in Tennessee. Next.
I hit it. It's just delayed.
And 83 obviously is the last year of the program, and to the right you can kind of see a roll up of the point totals that you have earned toward achieving one of the national medals that are out there as rewards for participation in the program.
Well, one thing about it is a lot of people don't realize the Treaty of Paris was just the treaty accords signed at that point. Then they had to bring the accords back, and Congress had to agree upon it.
They had to ratify them.
Yeah, they had to ratify it.
Yep.
So what I'm saying is 1776 was just like at the beginning of the war, you know, seriously, or like in midway in the war, you know, in my mind. But there's a lot of things that before it gets towards the end that really come into play with our area. And in my mind, I agree with what Cliff's saying, that we might need to, whereas National wants to do 2026, we might want to be doing 1781 or 82, somewhere, you know, right in that point, you know. So it's something to think about.
So ultimately, you know, if we kind of like the framework, then we'd have to have a mechanism to decide what we want to recognize as our state district, or the chapters can bubble up when they decide, but state and if there's a state or district event, we'd have to have it out in front. So we'll have to have, you know, if we wanted to do something like this, we'd have to have a framework of, you know, pre-planning of when we want to do it, put it out in front of the BOG for final approval, and and then move forward with it. But it would have to, be a BOG meeting cycle. I had a couple of them in order to get out in advance, so we're not behind on a year and far enough out in advance for the program. If that makes sense, I'm sure everybody's tracking what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and Cliff, it also gives us another opportunity to go to the chapters. I know Steve Gaines is intent on sort of chapter level up rather than state level down, and to be able to go to the chapter meetings. We've got an Isaac Shelby meeting in person for the first time in a long time this coming Thursday, and to each chapter course is supposed to have designated a member for this committee, America 250, but to incentivize the membership that, hey, we're putting these plans together and we have these programs in the works, things you can participate in. That's what a lot of individuals are looking for. And this is a lot of work involved in this, and you've done a tremendous amount, to put all the pieces in place, but to begin to, talk to them about this and of course they'll want to know what they can win. We got to figure all that out, as you said, medals or.
And Joel, can you go down a couple? Now at the bottom of the slideshow here is a series of draft certificates I just kind of put together, so I'd have something we could visualize and talk about. But in effect, the different level of certificates are really like the stamps now for your passport. So you'd end up with a collection of certificates under this current concept. Now I have been researching to try to find like actual old stamps that were issued pretty much during the bicentennial period for different things that we maybe could incorporate into the certificate concept, and maybe your passport builds with different levels of stamps instead of having a unique certificate for each level. But right now I just have it set up as a unique certificate as you advance through the program, earning the different points toward achieving a medal or one of the higher national medals or awards. And you'd have to go back and look at the annual year box roll-ups for each of the different medals and awards. But the certificates pretty much, if you've been participating and you may not have achieved enough points for an award, but most of them are oriented on the level or the year. So those aren't actually hard to earn. The medals are a little harder to earn.
I can imagine hearing that somebody will say, well, we've already got the Americanism Award, what's the difference? There's always a lot of second guessers, if not naysayers. But the difference is it's a different level of different kind of participation and an effort to get people involved in the America 250 specifically. And sometimes I've just said to folks, so what if there's some overlap or parallelism? What if there's some duplication? Different things appeal to different people differently. So I really think this is worth continuing to flesh out the way you've really got it well underway. I know you've been trying to get together with us for a long time about this, and I appreciate it.
So what do you think is our next steps on this right now, Cliff? You got to get approval for the program?
I guess we'd have to, the committee needs to decide if we want to push ahead with this concept. Joel, can you go to 1771?
Yeah, put it on the agenda for the, what is it, the July meeting?
Yeah,
Is that our next one?
Because 1771, that's what we're in right now. So,
well, I'd kind of like to get, does the committee agree right now? How does the committee feel about this program?
I've said my piece.
I think it's a good thing, and Mark thinks it's a good thing. Cliff's done a lot of work.
I think you should present it to the BOG.
Okay. Present to the BOG and call for a vote then.
Now, monetary wise, I can go back and recalculate, the cost of if we wanted to recommend the state society buy X number of these awards that we have on hand and say, and just put it out there. Hey, if you work through this, if you work through our program, we are going to have X number of awards that the state will recognize people with, but it'll be first come, kind of first served kind of thing.
That's a good idea. Now, one thing I was thinking about too, now we have a lot of patriots that are buried in the state of Tennessee. And I heard Steve mention that they're getting ready to mark Casper Mansker's grave. Now, would that be something that would fall into this too?
It could be, and I did a scrub working with Joel on our database from our database. I did a focus scrub on District 1 Patriots, and I'd have to go back and actually look at my spreadsheet that I came out with, but I think I came up with some number over 70 that are recognized within DAR, SAR, and are on Find a Grave, where in theory, you could walk out and touch them today and verify the condition of their burial site, and they're eligible for marking. And then there's a whole, of course, then there's the other set that we don't really know if there's anything there at the burial site or what's there at the burial site. So yeah, this could all be worked into, this is all kind of worked into this program to a degree to where it encourages guys to go out. We got a bunch of guys that like going out and hunting them down. So they could get credit for doing that.
Be an opportunity to actually have like a cleanup few years to get everything back in condition with some of the Patriots' graves and cemeteries that they're at. That's been forgotten. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
I'll just mention here that when I was on the newly formed State America 250 Commission, Steve now is on that. It's the Tennessee Semi-Quincentennial Commission. One of the things I had left them with was the suggestion that the state consider creating a Patriots Pathway.
Right.
That involves some capital construction, some signage, and that sort of thing to go from East Tennessee to West Tennessee with waypoints, significant historic points, some of which are already established, but others of which are just waiting to be highlighted. And they've barely gotten going with that state commission yet. But if you did have something of that sort, you could also adapt this so that people who traveled the state and visited these sites could get credit on their passport, for having made the trail, the pathway.
Right.
And,
kind of like a concept you come up with the different trails going through the state.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good idea. Real good idea. Since Steve is not on, did you get to talk to Steve much about the Historic Commission, what they're doing, where they're at right now?
Well, I can speak to it. The last week, my last meeting on the State Semi-Quincentennial Commission was, I think, March 12th. And I was looking to see when the next meeting is scheduled. They're finally starting to have monthly meetings, and each meeting lasts no more than an hour, and they've really gotten off to a very slow start. Van West, Carol Van West is the chairman of the commission, and they're they've just been getting organized. It's been housekeeping, let's put it that way so far. I did, so that the other members know, and I think Walt has a copy of it. You know, I knew I was a short timer by the time they missed an entire year without meeting, and they finally had their organizational meeting in January. We had 3 meetings, and I left them a sort of a monograph, a written suggestion of things that they could consider. And I told them that the projects that we were talking about, from the Liberty Tree program to Flags for Freedom and Camp Blunt, I mentioned that just in case they ever came up with any funding. This year they have something like a $3 billion with a B surplus of one-time money at the state. As a judge, as a federal judge, I'm prohibited from fundraising or any political activity. But Cecile, and also the new lady who's the head of the Tennessee Historical Commission, understand from some conversations that I had with them that this is the year they ought to, somebody in the General Assembly ought to be setting aside, you know, significant money out of this year's budget for this program, because they won't have this kind of money again for many, many years. One-time money. And I think Governor Lee's going to be doing something like that for the state. The state's, what is it, 150th? It's coming up in June.
Yeah, it's coming up real soon.
They ought to set aside some serious money for this America 250. So that's
to make
it.
a lot of this happen, right?
Can I throw out a thought, please? This may be larger than just SAR, but I'm wondering if the Tennessee State Department of Tourism might be a good vehicle for getting information out, because I'm quite sure that a lot of people coming to our state and a lot of people that live in our state don't know about all of the places, people, and actions that have taken place in Tennessee encompassing the Revolutionary War. So I'm wondering if the state might be interested in getting behind some of this. And Mark, to your point, that might be able to be a way to tack onto some of that money.
Yes.
And I'd be happy to explore that if anybody thinks it's worth just looking into.
So let me say that this is all part of the Tennessee Code Annotated, and it was codified, made law in 2018. And the statute that sets up the Tennessee Semi-Quincentennial Commission houses it within the Tennessee Department of Tourism.
Okay.
And Commissioner Ezell, by state law, was designated as the organizer to call the first organizational meeting of the Semi-Quincentennial Commission. And he neglected to do so for 13 months after it was enacted into law. And he finally did so. And the first meeting was January of this year, at which they restructured, and out of the 13 members who serve on it, one of which is ex officio voting member, Tennessee Society president, they elected, instead of Commissioner Ezell to be president or chairman of it, they elected the state historian, who's Van West. And yes, we've got, we should have the full authority and financial ability of the Tennessee Department of Tourism behind us in this thing, which is why I had suggested they consider a statewide Patriots Pathway kind of project. But you're thinking, you're ahead of the curve there, because that's the way it was intended. That's the way it was set up. They just haven't really engaged that much yet. So
Kind of like what they did for the Civil War at the different rest
exactly.
centers.
Exactly.
Except they need to do it for the Revolutionary War.
That and the Tennessee bicentennial.
Right.
So they have patterns to cut to or templates to work from. They're supposed to be meeting statewide, and they are working on that. While they're trying to come up with a schedule to have public meetings in counties across the state to generate more interest, knowledge, interest, and enthusiasm about it. But it's like pushing a wet noodle uphill.
I hear
All
you.
the stuff. It's unbelievable. And the coronavirus has not helped, So
Okay.
Cecile Wimberly is also an ex officio member, and she's got a 2-year term, so she'll be on it for at least another year. And she's a go-getter. I should also mention at the next meeting, whenever it is, and it's this month, it's soon, but they're going to have a member of the National America 250 make a presentation to the state commission. And by the way, all of you and all of us, are welcome to attend. They're supposed to be public meetings, so we ought to be able to tune in, and they're being done virtually.
If you don't mind, Mark, let us know when it's going to happen. I'll
Yeah.
put it out, or you can put it out either way.
It ought to be on the website. I've suggested that they have a website, that they create a video,
Right.
that they think about creating a speakers bureau, so that people who are interested will have, a short video to go play and can begin to generate some enthusiasm about this. But they have a long way to go.
I understand. There's other projects. If any people, does anybody have other ideas or other projects that you've been thinking about or discussing, kind of like what Jerry Jellum's thinking about doing? Is there any, and also what we're talking about with the historical commission? Is there any other projects that need to be commented on and be brought up to us today? Does anybody have anything?
Do we want to set a date for a follow-on meeting?
If we can, a lot of it will be hinged on you, Cliff. So what's about the best date you think? So, I want to give you time to be able to work on some stuff, you know what I'm saying? To come up with the costs and that kind of stuff. I'm thinking this is April, about May, about the same timing in May or later. What do you think?
That would probably work as a final checkpoint prior to the July BOG. If we're in agreement that we'd like to brief this at the BOG for everyone's buy-in.
I think it'd be a good idea.
I would
And you
like to
got-
request that we might have this meeting on a weeknight rather than on a Saturday, because when you're getting into May, you're getting into events.
You're right. You're right.
And we should also go out and beat the bushes, get our district directors to rally the chapters, because each chapter is supposed to have designated, as I said, a member of the America 250 committee, and then each chapter is supposed to have its own committee. And I know they don't, but so that they would participate in our next meeting. Say, look, our next meeting is May 13th or
Right.
whatever it is, Wednesday, and we need you all to be there. So they get informed and start buying into all this, so that, Cliff isn't doing it by himself or Walt doing it by himself. And so when it goes to the BOG, there's sort of grassroots, a groundswell of support.
Right.
Yeah.
That was kind of going to be my recommendation, for lack of a better day. I mean, how about Thursday, 13 May in the
We have
evening?
our chapter meeting. Our
Thursday,
chapter and the Benjamin Cleveland chapter both meet on that night.
Oh, yeah, you're right. So Wednesday, the 12th?
Well, there's a lot of people go to church.
You guys, you're just torturing each other.
No,
Dave,
I'm just being
Let's meet on the
careful.
weeknight.
And
Or would Monday work better? Monday would be the 10th.
Monday might work better. Monday the 10th. And what about 7 o'clock?
1900 Eastern would be 1800 Central.
You weren't in the military by any
7 o'clock
chance, were you,
Eastern.
Colonel? Monday,
Right.
10th, okay.
7
I
o'clock.
can work it either way, you know what I'm saying? So be 7 o'clock our time or 8 o'clock Eastern time.
Okay, 7 Central, so 8 Eastern.
Right. Just trying to make it easy on everybody that's not military, so.
You know, my one question was, I didn't know if we had any of the members of the CAR and DAR, like at this meeting today, where we're trying to do anything that's common, where we all three societies can work on something instead of just, it feels like we're distancing, even with our symbol that it says the SAR, and the 250th has their own with the DAR, and the state has their own versus national. Is there any way to try to adhere some of these together? I just think it would be going further if we had, you know, those type members, whether it's the district directors for our state with the DAR and even the CAR. I don't know how else to push through with that. If we can make sure, I don't know if they got invitations to this meeting or not, but I'd hope
We
they'd
did
want
get
to.
invitations to the meeting, but the problem of it is, it was short notice because it was less than a week notice, and some already had things scheduled. So.
But I
what
think that,
happened.
I think we should work in that direction, and as we get some momentum, you know, like right now, if we had Cecile on here with us, it'd be embarrassing.
It would be.
We should have at least 23 chapter members present, and we still have to, we got to keep repeating what this is about. Unfortunately, we got members who don't even know what 1776 is, let alone that we're coming up on the 250th of it. I mean, I'm overstating it. I don't mean to be too cynical, but
It's true. It's very true.
True.
yeah.
And what it amounts to is, I'm trying to reach out to Cecile and trying to get more involvement with the DER right now. Ryan, if you can, do the same thing as well, since you're DER liaison. And we'll continue working those efforts. I sent out notes to the junior CER president and also the vice president, and I didn't hear back from them why they couldn't attend. So they were invited.
Ryan, good point you had there. One thing I realized in listening to your comment was I will go back into the draft program. I made a note where we could get credit in any given year for participating in a DAR event, but I did not put a CAR. So maybe it's a either or. You can participate in the if our number 3 event for the year is an external participation thing, then participating in DAR, CAR, or a Southern District event might earn you credit toward our program.
Right.
I think this is a great opportunity to strengthen the younger people, our descendants, to get them involved in CAR and in these events, to bring them along, because the future of this organization is going to depend on them growing up and embracing all of this.
Agree.
Yeah.
I agree. For all those that don't know about it, April 12th, North Carolina is having the 245th Halifax Resolves Memorial. And if you go to their website, it's already listed up there. We've been invited to it. I know I've been invited to it. Some other people have been invited to it. So if you want to participate in the color guard side, I thought you'd like to know about it. But they've been having a lot of events they've been inviting us to, North Carolina. They have a pretty good website over there in North Carolina. If you look at North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, between the 3 of them, they got a pretty decent website. And I don't know if it's something we might need to look at. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, Walt, they have many more events because South Carolina and North Carolina had the most number of battles in the Revolutionary War. So therefore, they have a lot of memorial or commemoration events.
Right. I'm just talking about overall, though. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
South Carolina is probably ahead of all of us as far as developing a Patriot Trail.
Right.
They already have one set up. It's already in their welcome centers. They have a
Right.
brochure in their welcome centers now, and it's really they've really done a good job down there.
I think it'd be something that we could actually lunch off of and do with this historical commission that way. You know, seriously.
Yeah. Who could we talk to, Dave? Do you know anybody? And I guess I still know a few legislators over there in South Carolina, because I'd like to see what materials they've got. Maybe that would be show and tell would get the Tennessee group going faster.
Yeah, I plan to go to Utah Springs again this year if they have an actual event.
Okay.
And I've become real good friends with some of those guys down there.
Good.
They've actually bought up a lot of the property that they've made parks out of. And the thing about it is, when they started out, they started working with the Civil War guys.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how they got their first grant.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we've got tremendous opportunities in Tennessee. It's
We
unbelievable.
do. We do.
We do.
On an admin note for everybody that's here, Walt mentioned the North Carolina website. I had a chat with their webmaster. They use a similar provider that we have, although they are upgraded to the business platform, so they can do minor retail operations, but also
Okay.
gain advantage to all the extra tools you get by the upgrade, to include, extra video, extra photos, extra web pages, etc. So that is something that's out there in other discussions that we've had, but that it does impact our ability to do more visual stuff.
Right. If we went to the North Carolina level, how much more would it cost us? Do you have any idea on costing or that kind of stuff? Well,
Just the website itself?
Yeah.
It's not, well, I don't think it's very expensive. It's less than a few $100s.
Okay.
I really don't think their website's any better than ours, Cliff. You do a good job.
Very
Well,
good.
I appreciate it. And, we have other aspects that they don't have. For
That's
instance,
right.
Right.
we do have an interactive database for our Patriots here in
Right.
Tennessee. They are just using a downloadable file, which is fine. And that's great. And, and ours is good too, but the long pole in the tent for ours is maintenance of it. So, like anything else driven by data, good data gets you good product.
Right.
Walt, could I also mention April 19th, of course, is Patriots Day.
Right.
Monday, April 19th. I did get President Steve Gaines in touch with the clerk of the Senate to see whether the color guard could present, as has become the tradition in recent years, to opening ceremony to present the colors at the opening of the Senate session on the 19th. And the only impediment right now is as to whether the General Assembly will open up more given the pandemic because of the virus. They've limited outside participation. So it's in discussion. It may happen, may not. April 19th.
Walt, I do have one alibi, and Mark's comments on April 19th jarred my memory. We have a draft, and this is a chapter level thing. A couple of us have been talking about, and we haven't really got very far on it, but it's an idea, and it might work for some chapters better than others. But the idea basically is that around Chattanooga, we got a lot of folks who like to get out and run and walk and do stuff like that. And we have some good green space areas where they can do that locally. So the general thought concept was to research what it would take to get permission to stand up a run walk kind of event for the community on the, linked to the 19 April events of the revolution, and get it out in the face of everybody. For instance, I recently got a book about it online, since I have 8 Patriot ancestors that were involved in the day. But the average British soldier marched about 39.5 miles that day, just marching, not counting getting shot at and having to run. You know, so, and of my 8 Patriot ancestors, I figured that on the average, just to get to Battle Road, on the average, they had to move either by foot or horse 25 miles. So, and most of them honestly walked it.
Right. But like Mark was saying, it's not a bad idea. Like Mark was talking about too, you know, the trails. Take that same concept that you're doing with the local area and put it on the trails, and have something like a run walk type thing too. That wouldn't be bad either. So it's good thoughts.
Yeah.
Good thoughts to work on.
And for those
without dysentery, you know.
For those of us who served in Germany any one time, you know, the Volksmarch model's a good model for that kind of thing.
Right. Does anybody have anything else?
Mark, can
Sir?
you hear me?
I can hear you. Is that David Egan? David Egan?
It's me,
I
incognito.
thought you'd been hacked.
I think I have. I think my telephone took it over. Could you give me a call sometime this weekend?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it.
Owe you a call.
I have a question.
Okie doke.
Thank you. That is all. Sorry, I don't know. I think my phone hijacked my computer because it's been working every time until now. So
We can't see you, but we can
that's
hear you.
That's when you get one of those 5G phones that takes over everything.
believe me, I'm still in the dark ages.
Okay, but Cliff, could you set up that meeting, our next meeting, and send me the link?
I will do that.
And I'll get it out to everybody. And we'll do another reinforcement, trying to get our district directors to engage the chapters to pick somebody for being a committee member as well. All right. I want to thank everybody for your time, and have a great weekend.
Thanks, Walt. Thank y'all.
So long, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.